We did it. We've teamed up, and together we've created something special. We are the Idaho Underground Sports Network, and we're changing the game. We're covering Idaho high school sports in a way that you haven't seen before. Together, we'll be providing weekly breakdowns and recaps while helping uncover Idaho's top talents at a deeper level. Trust us, you want to be part of this. Boise Sports Talk, EBC Media, and the Game Time Guru bring you Gym Session. Let's get to work. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of Gym Session. My name is Shane Larson, also known as the Game Time Guru. My guys here at the Idaho Underground Sports Network, AJ and Ty, I'm not sure if they'll be joining or not, but it's okay. We've got an amazing guest here on the show. We're going to be doing a little bit of a state championship breakdown this week as we wrap up football season. Then next week, we're going to be getting into our basketball coverage, just mainly the winter sports. But we had quite the game this last week on Friday at Boise State at Albertsons Stadium on the blue. Quite the fourth quarter, a lot of excitement. So we're going to be bringing on the head coach, Coach Armando Gonzalez, to chat with us about the experience. It's been, just an incredible ride. So we just want to say thank you, Armando, for joining us and being willing to talk to us about the game. So thank you for joining us first and foremost.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to share our story.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. We want to remind everybody out there that if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as we're trying to grow this platform along with our Instagram page. If you guys don't know by now, our Instagram page is at Idaho Underground Sports. That is the Idaho Underground Sports Network that we've been trying to build. So make sure to follow us over there. Now, it's interesting, Armando. We were talking as a group, right? We got blasted pretty hard because of the picks we made, right? And here's the deal. I know most of those people who are looking at the picks, they mistake picks as disrespect, and it's completely not that way. And I've been in sports media for over a decade. It's totally not that way. Only one team can win. You got to choose something. And, it's interesting because we felt the same way when we picked Rocky over Meridian earlier in the season, and then the Meridian kids freaked out at us after Meridian wins, right? So it's like we've dealt with it a few times. But the thing is if anybody actually listened and followed our content, they would see that, we had all the respect for Rigby. We even said multiple times, Rigby was the team to beat. Rigby was the team to beat. I don't know. Some people, they want to read headlines or use something for fake narratives and so forth. And I felt like that's kind of what happened. Because I'm like, did they not realize how much of Rigby fans we really were? We just happened to pick Meridian. They were undefeated and they looked good. But going into this game, Armando, I want to talk about the history.
I'll say
go ahead.
I'll say something about that. I'm glad you guys picked them because it's been really difficult being the top team in the state the last couple of years. So I'd rather be the underdog. It's much easier to coach when you're the underdog.
Oh, I like that. See, we did you a favor. Rigby fans, you should, you heard it from Coach there. You did you guys a favor. No, I'm just kidding. So, Armando, you came into coaching at Rigby, has it been 5 or 6 years now? I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
This is my 6th year. I got here in 2017 was my first season.
That's right. Okay. So 2017 first season. So you've completed 6 total seasons, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And what AJ and I were saying on the show the last time was how when you think of Idaho football, like high school football, Rigby is Idaho high school football. Like that's what it is as of late, especially last 5-6 years. You guys have really built that culture. I wanted to take an opportunity to ask you about that winning culture that you have developed over there at Rigby, because Eastern Idaho is packed. You go from one city to the next, it's like 5 minutes away. It's like bang, 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 bang. You got a million different cities, but everybody wants to go to Rigby. That's like the thing. They want to go and they want to play for you. That's kind of, that's just the reality of the situation because you've built a winning culture. Can you talk to that and how you have established that winning culture over at Rigby?
Well, I think first and foremost, it comes down to accountability. When I first came here, I think Coach Waite, who was the coach before me, I think started in the foray, that culture of accountability, that this wasn't going to be just recreational, and there was going to be a process to preparing yourself for each season. And I think when I got here, I saw that foundation was in place, and I think fortunate to come into a situation like that where he had put in a lot of the legwork and the groundwork, and I think they were ready for something great. They had great players, great families, great community, and a lot of people don't realize, I've toiled aside one of my offensive coordinator. We coached in California, and we were athletic directors together, and we toiled for a long time experimenting with a lot of things in terms of culture and building organizations. And it's just, we've been able to put that all together here. But again, I don't think I could have done it if the people, in leadership and things like that, people talk about readiness, and sometimes communities, businesses aren't ready for drastic change. And I think our community was ready. So, establishing core values, what our mission is each year, all of those things that go into building a great organization, great culture. I think just to go back to the community and our kids and our parents who are ready for something, and ready to become a part of something great.
Yeah, dude, the community is a huge piece over there. Like there seems to be a lot of support in that community. It's wild. They talk about small town feel, but you guys, it's small town, but you guys travel hard. You guys have, it doesn't look small when you guys are playing sports. I'll tell you that much. You got the whole, because you pretty much got everybody there. So with that being said, you've won a couple of state championships, and by a couple, how many have you got now? 4?
We've got 3. We've played in 4 in a row.
You played. Okay. So you've got 3 with you. So where are you putting the other ring? Like you're turning into Jordan. So I want to know, are you going 2 hands? Do you have a thumb and an index finger? How are you doing it?
I let the kids worry about the rings. You know what I like is one of our coaches last year bought all the coaches watches, and I wear the watch. That's much more, that fits and suits me much better than wearing rings. But the kids like to wear the bling bling. They wear on their necklaces, and who knows how many fingers they got. But at this point, that's something the kids can worry about.
I love that. That's actually pretty sweet. I will say I was sitting next to Van Visual. He was doing his stuff, and he had 2 rings on himself, and I'm like, dang, dude, they go hard at Rigby with the rings, man. Like there's some money spent there, because those are blinging, man. It's awesome.
They are.
So, Coach, as we go into Friday night's game, leading up to that game, you guys came through the hard route of the bracket, so to speak, after losing a heartbreaker to Highland, which most people, you don't want to discredit Highland. Obviously, that was a great comeback on their part. You got to give them credit. But, everyone kind of felt, I feel like it was, general consensus that, no, Rigby is the best team out of that area. We expected that. So, but you guys got put into what I would call a harder side of the bracket with, having to go against Rocky at Rocky. You had to go to Eagle at Eagle. And then obviously come and face Meridian. 3 straight trips to the Treasure Valley, 3 weeks in a row, and you guys did it. So going into Friday, though, after being battle tested through not only the season but the state playoffs themselves, what was the mentality of the team going into Albertsons Stadium Friday night?
Well, I don't think it's ever been done. We were one of our coaches was looking at the records for as long as they have them, and I don't think any team's gone 3 weeks in a row on the road like this and won a state championship. So that's an accomplishment that these kids should be proud of, because when I talk to them about when we get to this stage of the season, I talk to them about this. When you win in the playoffs and being able to make it to a state championship, it has to do more with mental toughness than physical toughness, because everybody's physically tough and has good players and can play the game at this point. Everybody's good, but it's the teams that are mentally tough. And I'll tell you what, that mental toughness was tested, because going on the road and staying in hotels 3 weeks in a row, these kids got school. This last week we had finals to finish the week. There's so many variables that go into, having a chance to be successful. And that's why a lot of people don't know this. And I've mentioned this on other publications and things I've talked to that our goal is not to win state championships. Our goal is to win in the playoffs. And so we have a standard that we win our conference. We beat the team up north, which is our rival, Madison, and then we win in the playoffs. And after that, like I tell the kids, that we're playing with house money. We get to go have fun, because I think it's unrealistic for coaches to have the state championship as their goal, because I don't think think about how rare that is. And we've been very fortunate. And I think our recipe for doing what we need to do and controlling what we can control, and then seeing if you're good enough to win in the playoffs, then you've got a chance to actually compete at a high level. And so that's been our goal from the very beginning. And I think when you do that, you set yourself up for success, and it's about the process. And that's really what we believe in. So I think the kids knew that going in. I told them it's going to take mental toughness. We got a lot of variables that go into being successful. You got to travel, teenagers that break up with their girlfriend and all the stuff that can happen, surrounding the game, and not getting a good grade or getting in trouble at home. So you have to have a lot of things to go right so you don't have distractions at this stage in the season. And we didn't have any distractions. Actually, as I look back on it now, we probably got to spend more time doing football with these kids the last 3 weeks than I probably would have if we were playing at home.
Right. Right. What are those bus rides like, man? I just wonder. 3 weeks in a row. I mean, you're getting a 4.5 hour bus ride over there. Do you guys stay locked in and no one talks, or is it pretty happy go lucky on that bus? Because you guys seem like as a unit that you're pretty tight knit. I'm sure that there's tiffs here and there that just happens in sports.
Oh yeah, it's family life, like any family life.
Yeah, exactly. But is it pretty fun bus rides? Like, how are those bus rides? Because you got a lot of them the last couple of weeks.
We did. The kids know that as we get closer and closer to the game, then they got to start to lock in. But they're a teenager, and the coaches like that. We have a great atmosphere with our coaches and our players, and they know on the bus ride up there, it's like you're 24 hours, 48 hours from game time. That I don't expect you to be locked in. I don't think that's realistic, but they do know that there's a certain standard of behavior. For example, there's no yelling across the bus and being way up emotionally or way down. It's just kind of it's a business trip, and the kids can enjoy themselves. They enjoy the time together. But by the time we hit about 4:00 on game day, that's when we get out on the bus from the hotel to go over to the stadium. At that point, it's a lot different than it would be when we're leaving Thursday morning.
Totally. No, that's awesome. It was freezing Friday night. You're not unfamiliar with cold weather. Eastern Idaho, especially this time of year.
That was freezing, really?
Yeah, I tell you, yeah, exactly. I'm a little bit different, and I've lived in Meridian and the Treasure Valley my whole entire life. Like, I hate Idaho for that reason. It's so cold. But Eastern Idaho is another ball game, man. Like, Eastern Idaho is just a whole other thing. So you guys are pretty used to the cold, but there wasn't any snow or anything. It was just cold, right? I think it was like 26 degrees right around kickoff, or it was under 30 at kickoff. I know, obviously, just based on your response there, it probably didn't have a factor. Does the cold weather bother any of your players in regards to like anything, or do they just go out and they're ready to compete?
Well, there's one reason why we like to play at home here in the playoffs is because the Boise team's got to come here to the bitter cold. But it affects them just like any other kid. But I think that they just know how to deal with it at this point. It's like we had practices all week this week, and it was probably 15, 20 degrees on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday when we practice our main practices. So we actually got really lucky that we didn't have any major weather issues because we didn't have any indoor facilities that were available for us to go in. So, they got used to practicing in the cold, and over the years, it's just been part of who we are and what we do. And so it really didn't play a factor for us. We after this fall and, this summer and fall, and it was being really warm, we were ready for football weather once it got cold.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I could tell y'all are just like out there having a good old time. There weren't that many people on your team, like even your quarterback. I mean, he's just ready to sling it. No, like nobody had sleeves on.
I know.
I'm just like, man, all right. My toe warmers and my hand warmers wore off before the kickoff even happened because I was out there an hour before, and I was like, oh boy, it's gonna be a long night. So anyway, that's awesome, man. As you guys get into the game, it was one of the better state championships I've watched in regards to the competitive nature, the storylines that happened, the opportunities that were, capitalized on, the opportunities that were missed on both sides. But ultimately, I wanted to talk about there was a play or a drive that I actually felt was the turning point. I want to talk to you about this because you mentioned the mental toughness of your team and how that was tested and all this stuff during the last couple of weeks. But like, there was a play where Nathan Reynolds from Meridian, he's their middle linebacker, arguably their best athlete.
Great player. Probably one of the best in the state, without a doubt.
He's unreal. I mean, there's questions as to why he wasn't playing at tight end a little bit more, but like, he takes the kickoff back to the 8-yard line. So it's 1st and goal from the 8. Meridian has a chance to go up by 14 at half. Potentially you guys would still get the ball essentially, but like, there was a chance for them to like kind of shift the momentum that way and really kind of get that because they were going to get the ball in the second half. And you guys made a goal line stand. Was there anything said on the sideline during that drive? Because I felt like I was like, oh boy, this is like a shifting part right here of this game. So what was happening on the sideline after Reynolds takes that back and your defense has to make a goal line stand, which ultimately ended up in 0 points after a missed field goal that happened on that same drive?
They did have a penalty. I will say that helped.
Yeah, that did help. That's they're notorious for that sometimes, drive killers. But But how you guys ultimately held them? Was there anything being said on the sideline?
Our our defense has been in those situations under. I could think back, at Skyline, we had a number of goal line stops. We had a huge goal line stop against Madison in early in the game when their quarterback, who the leading rusher in the state at that point, took about a 67 yard run on the first drive and went down to the 1, and our guy, Zabe Falavar, corner, caught him and just gave it a chance to play another set of downs. And so our defense has been put in that position a few times. We're much more aggressive than we've ever been defensively this year. We have a different style. I think we have a new defensive coordinator. We're a little smaller, faster. And so I think that at that point it was like business as usual. We just know we needed to get a stop. The goal in those situations always is at least holding the field goal. So when we held them to a field goal opportunity and then they missed, then obviously that was a huge win on our part. So without a doubt, definitely a huge turning point in the game.
Yeah, it was huge. I just thought you guys stepped up pretty well, and obviously the penalty did help in that. But that's football. I mean, that's part of football. Penalties are part of football, and so you guys held them down, and then the penalty didn't help them by any means. But then you still held them on a third down. Here's the other thing I want to talk about. So you guys have so many studs, and one of the things that I had taken note of was just like the studs that I've seen, because we only got to watch Rigby in person a couple of times. Real quick, if you guys are listening to this, those who were saying, why aren't you guys covering more parts of the state? Well, help us out. Like, we live in the Treasure Valley. Help us out. Get us some coverage. We're always asking people to help us with the network. So, if there's people out there that want to get footage for us and work with the Idaho Underground Sports Network, let us know. If you want to build your page, we'll help you out. So, anyway, we don't get to see them very often, but we got to watch them during the playoffs. We'll watch you guys during the playoffs. And there's you got Jack Bodrero on defense. And you got studs all over the field on defense, of course. Zach Hawks with a one arm. I've watched him, and I'm just like, dude, the dude's got a club, and he's out there balling. And that's not easy to do, playing with a club, by the way. Yeah. And then on offense, I mean, obviously we've mentioned Brady Packer because in the playoffs he was doing extremely well. And then Steffler was there too, but he had a couple moments in the state championship game where you're like, uh-oh, because he fumbles the ball. He gets rocked by Reynolds at the goal line, fumbles the ball, and that could have put the game away. But he ultimately comes back, and you guys put the ball back in his hands at the 2-point conversion, and you go in. So, all these studs were stepping up, and they didn't get rattled. Earlier in the game, Steffler drops a for sure touchdown pass, right? It was just burns over the top coverage, wide open, middle of the end zone, and drops it. Same drive, you guys come down, and who ends up with the touchdown? It was him, right? He gets the touchdown over in the corner, and it was like, yeah, these guys were mentally tough. But if you could talk, I know you could just list all the names of guys. I mean, Luke Flowers balled out. That's insane. He had over 300 yards passing, if I'm not mistaken, and a lot of those were big-time throws at big-time moments. One where he's halfway sacked, lets the ball go, and then another one is a 4th and 27 or whatever it was. He gets 15 yards, and then another 15, 20-yarder over to Brevin Larson, if I'm not mistaken. So all these different plays, Luke Flowers is balling. But was there anyone that has stood out to you during the state playoff run that was just like, this person was a game changer for us?
Yeah, I think both Luke and Brady. The amount of catches and yards and the offense that Brady accounted for in the playoffs was unbelievable. He didn't have as many in the state championship game. And, part of that's credit to Meridian. I think they came out and had a good plan and as well. But other guys had to step up, like Cade, Steffler did. And even though he dropped some balls, we didn't play our best ball early in that game. That was plain and simple. We dropped a number of passes. We've turned the ball over. I don't think we've turned the ball over that much all year. And one of the messages that these kids know that we've hit on throughout the weeks in the playoffs is you cannot turn the ball over and expect to win football games at these moments championship level moments. We did that in 2020. Our one loss in the state championship to Rocky Mountain in 2020, we turned the ball over 4 times and still lost 17-14. And so these kids have seen it, and we take a lot of kids with us when we travel. And part of the reason why I do that is so that they're accustomed to being in these and looking around them and looking at the stadium and seeing guys perform, so that when they get there, it's not the first time they're in these situations and they've seen it happen. So they understand what's necessary to win. And we just had not played our best ball. And so, at that point with Luke and with Brady, those were our guys we were going to go down with. If we're going to go down, we're going to go down with our guys. And as the game wore on, Luke threw that interception early, and he could have easily folded up. And, earlier in the year against American Fork, we had a close game that we actually didn't expect to, play them that tough. And our kids really stepped up. and he threw 3 interceptions and was a little rattled that game, I think, coming out of it. And, from that moment on, he really matured as a quarterback. And then when we hit the playoffs, it was like guns blazing. I mean, that kid was out of this world in terms of reads and leadership, and basically taking the burden on his shoulders for us and our success. So, I mean, I think those 2 players, without a doubt, carried us through the playoff run. I mean, our defense as a unit, I don't think we've had a better, I think, cohesive team unit on defense. Although you have Jack Pedrero, who took the ball away a number of times. I mean, he ripped the ball out of the quarterback's hand against Rocky Mountain at the end to seal that, and he ripped the ball out of the returner's hand on the kickoff at the end of the state championship game, and the ball happens to fall in his hands on that interception. I mean, he just is the right place at the right time, and that he's such a smart, intelligent player that he always seems to be around the football. But I definitely think those 3 guys really carried us through this championship run.
That's so cool. Shout out to all those guys. I mean, it speaks to your leadership and just your overall just athleticism and everything. You're just ready for the moment. That's awesome. The whole team, I felt like, Benedict did a great job. I mean, holy cow. The name hadn't come up much throughout the season from what I had seen. And then in the state championship game, man, it was just unbelievable. He was finding himself open across the middle, and Flowers was finding him across the middle because, like, everybody else was either getting rerouted or, things were a little bit tougher over the top. I don't know. But, like, he was finding him across the middle and taking what he had, and I thought it was amazing. Now, tell me this, Coach. 4th and 27. I mean, this is a big part of the game. That was arguably, there were so many turning points in this game, like so many opportunities that were, captured and some that were given away. But, like, 4th and 27.
It was at 4th or 3rd? I think it was 3rd.
Oh, 3rd. Sorry. 3rd and 20. I keep saying 4th. 3rd and 27.
And then 4th and 12.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying 4th. I don't know, because it got to 4th down. 3rd and 27, 4th and 12. Were you going to punt it after that if you didn't get that yardage, or were you still going for it?
No, I had told Aaron Flowers, our offensive coordinator, we got 2 downs. We need to try and get half back on 3rd down, half the yardage back, and then that gives us a manageable 4th down. We were going for it. We went for it early on 4th down, and it backfired on us, on that 4th and 1. Yeah. But in those games, I think that goes back to us being in this situation a number of times, and we were going to double down on our aggressiveness every single time. We were not going to shy away from it. And I think that, as you look at Meridian, late in the game, they had a 4th and 1 or 2 late, and they were backed up in their own territory, but they decided to punt. What I've learned in these situations is that if you're going to win a championship, you need to be aggressive. Sometimes it turns out not so good, but I think more often than not, if you stay aggressive, the kids get confidence from that, and they want to see that in their coach. So we were going for it from the very beginning. We were going for 2 as soon as we had the opportunity to score. There was no doubt in our mind. With that offense, I was not going to go into another double, triple overtime. So as soon as we could get ahead, we were going for it.
Yeah, that was my next question. Was the 2-point conversion. We were talking as a team about how unbelievably gutsy and confident you were, which shows, like, I mean, you could see it. It's instilled in the kids because they see it from the leadership. It's from you, and it's from the rest of the coaches. Like, you believe in them, and then they go out there and they execute. And I mean, that whole last drive, I mean, you're talking about the 3rd and 4th downs right there. And then it's 4th and 5. And, and right before that 4th and 5, I don't know how much you've watched the film since then, or if you're just celebrating, but we have the footage right behind that. It should have been a pick, or it could have easily been a pick on the 3rd down throw. Because it looked like Packer had slid down, and the corner for Meridian had it right in his hands. It could have been a pick 6, actually, depending on the angle and the speed. But it was like, those were little moments right there, right, where you're like, oh. And then on 4th and 5, Flowers rolls out, and I mean, he got in, but it's like, it was even tough to get in. Like, I mean, everything was just inches. It was, they say football's a game of inches, and then you decide immediately you're going to go for 2. So you mentioned that was the plan, but when you scored, was there any kind of, like, did the players know it? Talk to us about the whole experience. Like, when you finally get in the end zone, Flowers gets a 4th and 5 rollout, runs into the end zone. What was the decision? How? Because it seemed like it was pretty quick. There was like, it was like, hey, get out there, we're going, and you guys were ready to rock and roll. So can you walk us through that process?
Well, to be honest with you, that process started probably about 5-6 weeks ago, where about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through the season, as we get into conference play, we script into practice at the end of practice 2-point play situations, where it's kind of a competition period for our offense and defense. Because think about it, when you get into 2-point play situations, you don't know what defense they're going to run, and you don't know what play they're going to run. It could be something that a team's been practicing all year that you've never seen. So we feel that doing that in practice and putting the kids in situations like that as early as possible is going to prepare them to adapt on the fly. And we had some awesome competitions in the ensuing weeks, so that just kind of led to the point where the kids are used to doing that. And I think Coach Flowers has called probably anywhere from 12 to 15 different types of plays in those situations, kind of just experimenting. Same with us on defense, so that when we get in those moments, it's a no-brainer. It's like, this is what we're going to do. This is what we like. And so on that last drive, I had already kind of asked Coach Flowers, hey, what do you think right now? I mean, I don't know if we want to get in a situation where we go into overtime with these guys. So I think if we can get ahead, we need to do this. And he's like, no doubt. And so it was like right there. And then I just started walking to the sideline, talked to our defensive coordinator, a couple of, Jack Ruggiero, a couple of defense kids. And I said, hey, we're going for it. So get ready, because if we don't get it, we got to get a stop. We need the ball back. And so you're just going through those situations so that when you get to that moment, it was like, Luke rolls, he somehow manages to get in. And then it was like, this is what we're doing. And that play we had, that 2-point play we ran was actually a play that we hadn't done in the previous weeks. It was a newer one that Coach Flowers had kind of been saving, and we had run it in the past, but it was just something that put the ball in our best players' hands. And think about it, I'm not running into the teeth of that defense. They're too good. I mean, I think credit to Meridian. That was probably one of the hardest hitting teams we faced in my 6 years here. I mean, that Nathan Reynolds and those kids, I mean, hard-nosed, tough, gritty. I can't say enough about their toughness physically. I mean, they took it to us. And so we were going to put the ball in the perimeter and get away from those guys as soon as we could.
Man, it's crazy though, because that's what you've got to do. You put the ball in your best player's hands, and that goes back to my point earlier. Was Brady Packer? He didn't stand out because you had other guys like Steffler had a touchdown, Benedict was getting his catches. There were some other guys that were getting more names, and then he has the fumble at the goal line. So people were like, man. Yeah. Is this Brady's game or not? But you still trusted him, got the ball in his hands. And honestly, if you watch that replay too, especially from the angles that we had, he was actually stopped for a quick second. Like they took the angle on, but he spun. So when he got hit, he spun off the contact and was able to come in. It's one of those things. It's a game of inches. So a guy who has that IQ and understanding and that feel would be the best way for me to put it, the feel for the game. Because he caught it, and there was a little push, and then he gets hit by like 3 different dudes, and he spins and goes in because they all went that way, and he spun around him. Just a good feel for the game. That's like the best thing. I was just like, yeah, you got to give credit to this team. AJ said something that was just spot on. He said Rigby came out and took this game. They took it. Some guys, they play not to lose, and some teams play to win. You guys played to win, and you came out. And I'm not saying Meridian didn't play to win, but you came out and you took that game. And I think sometimes you have to do that in big time moments. It's the saying that big time players make big time plays in big time moments. And I think you guys had a lot of that. The whole game was kind of back and forth, edgy. But that fourth quarter, how many big time plays happened? I mean, even the ensuing drive by Meridian, which everyone was surprised by, because all of a sudden they're down at the 24-yard line with a minute and a half to go. And it's like this team just all of a sudden marched down the field. And usually they're more methodical with their driving. And it's like, well, now here we go. Let's see what they can do. And then boom. I don't even know if that was a strip sack interception. I don't know how you want to call that, but it was an interception return for 6 on that one. It was like big time players making big time plays in big time moments. Unbelievable. And then the ensuing kickoff, obviously strip, fumble, recovery, and everything to seal it.
I think I lost you there.
Hold on. Let's see if it comes back.
You're good.
There we are. Let's see if it stays there. Yeah. The feeling that you have, like,
sorry. Oh, there you go.
How did Friday night's championship compare to the other ones that you have had?
Well, oh man, that's hard. We've had some wild games. I'll tell you what, from the 2019, I think double, triple overtime with Coeur d'Alene in our first one, 57-56, where we again decided to go for 2 because we had the ball last. to, Rocky Mountain where we were down and had turned the ball over. It's hard to compare, but I would say for me as a coach, it was probably more satisfying this year, even though I love those kids on the other teams and what they were able to accomplish. But I think that the expectations this year were different. I told the kids even, I'm like, I didn't expect us to be here. I really didn't. That's coming from their coach. I mean, I knew we were going to be good. I knew we had a talented football team. I didn't know if we were ready for the mental and emotional strain that these type of seasons require. And they proved me wrong. I'll tell you that much. And so I think it was much more satisfying as a coach to see them grow through the year, to see us lose against Highland in a game we should have won. And no, again, credit to them. They took that game from us. And so I think that was a good lesson for our young kids, because we got a young football team. I mean, I think we've only got like 7, 8 seniors that really played significantly on this team. So we've got a young team coming back. And for those kids to see that and go through that at this moment, I was really satisfying to see the growth that we had this year.
Man, I tell you, we said it just even yesterday. We were having a team meeting, and we said, yeah, watch out for Rigby next year, man. This Rigby equals Idaho football, man. It is what it is. It's a special group of dudes, just unbelievable. And it's from everyone, the whole community, man. I'm blown away. I don't know if they get reimbursed for gas money or what, but like they were at every game every weekend in the Treasure Valley for the last 3 weeks. I mean, the stands were packed, and I'm just impressed with how they travel so well. Coach, the question I have for you then is, there's going to be some expectations next year. You've got some talent coming back, man. You got a lot of returners coming back and a lot of big time players coming back. So expectations will be high. It's a little different than this year where you were saying, we weren't expecting to be here. Well, now next year you're probably expected to be there. When does the off season begin for you?
We normally give the kids an emotional rest through the holidays. We have a lifting class in the morning, and so that we get back in the weight room and kind of get through into that routine. We have a number of kids that go play basketball and play other sports, which is good. I think the kids need that rest from seeing me and hearing me. They need to hear someone else for a little while. But I would say we have probably 85% of our team in our football class, and they when they get back from Christmas break and in January, I think we go in stages where it's like every few weeks we kind of raise the level of intensity in terms of what we require in the weight room. And as the weather warms up a little later into the spring, which sometimes in East Idaho is late May.
Yeah. I was about to say June, but yeah, you're right on.
Yeah. Our new defensive coordinator, he played for me in California. He got here in June and he was like, it's June and it's still like freezing here. He was in shock. So anyways, but we try and pace ourselves. It's part of the reason why I left California was that I felt like it was too much of a grind year round for the coaches and for the kids. And I didn't think I could make it through the next 20 years of my career, because I'm 47 years old. So I still got a ways to go in this thing. So I didn't think I could make it mentally and emotionally through the long haul if, what we had in place in California and what the rules allow you to do. So I think here with the weather and the kids playing other sports and it gives you an emotional rest so that by the time you get to May, June, you're kind of ready to get going again. And so we like to pace ourselves through the off season. They know that one thing never stops, and that's our mentality and in the weight room, because we feel that we want to be the most physically dominant team in the state of Idaho. And so the only way you do that is to get in the weight room consistently. And so we really, that's a pretty high priority in our program, but we will enjoy this for a little while. We usually have our banquet in January when we get back from Christmas as well. And by the time we hit that and start to turn the page, then we'll put team 113 in the books and move on to the next one.
Oh, I love it, dude. I love the fact that you give them a little chance to enjoy it and rest a little bit. And then you'll get back to work when the time's ready to go. And you can tell y'all take the weight room seriously. That's a big piece to it. Everybody says that until you actually see there's levels to this game. And you can see the ones who take the weight room seriously. I can see it through Rigby. I saw it in Meridian. I even saw it in Rocky. I mean, there's certain teams around the state that take the weight room seriously, and you can tell as a unit that they do. And then there's other ones that say they do, and then you're like, yeah, well, your level of seriousness is a little different than some. But
I brought Rocky and Meridian have set the standard without a doubt. And when I first got here, knowing that we had to play, especially Rocky, knowing that what they had done in Highland those programs are different. When you get on the field with them and you look across the field in warmups, there's a different feel to it. And so we knew that was a standard we needed to get to real quick.
I love that you said that too. I will just say this. When I went to I'm a huge Ohio State Buckeyes fan. So I'm a Boise State alum, Ohio State fan. It's weird, but like I used to, Boise State my whole entire life. I'm 34 years old, been to Boise State games my whole life. My first Ohio State game, coach, that I've ever been to was the Ohio State Clemson semifinal game in 2016. Deshaun Watson absolutely torched us. But like, I remember watching that and being like, dang, dude, those linemen are fast. Like those dudes are like 6'6", 340. Are running from that sideline to that sideline a lot faster than I'm used to seeing. And then the following year, I went to Ohio State, to Columbus, and watched Baker Mayfield torch us, which was great. But I saw Oklahoma play Ohio State. And the following week, I came over to the Boise State game because I had season tickets, and I was watching Boise State play Troy. I'm not trying to disrespect Boise State. I love them. That's my alma mater. But going from Ohio State, Oklahoma, and watching the athletes on the field and, that, and then going to a Boise State Troy game, it was – dude, it felt like a junior college, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you just sometimes you see the difference. You're like, oh boy, now we have something to change here. So it's kind of what it reminded me of when you said that. So, Coach, the last thing I got to say is this: I was talking to Ty from Boise Sports Talk. We were on the sideline. I was mainly on your guys' sideline the evening of the state championship game, getting the coverage from that side. What I absolutely love, like I'm a big, look good, feel good, play good type of guy. One, I love the helmets. I love the trident that some of them have for that. I love
the pitchfork.
Yeah, the pitchfork. We'll call it.
You know where that comes from, right?
Is that from I don't know. Is that ASU? It looks like ASU. I don't even know what the pitchfork's for. Tell us about it.
All right. Well, I'm from Central California. Santa Barbara, California, originally, and I think it's the second oldest school in the state, Santa Barbara High School. And I didn't go there. I went to Dos Pueblos, which is across town. They had a tradition that when the playoffs started, they go from being the Santa Barbara Dons to the Golden Tornado. And I don't know when it started. And it was just a tradition that they did at some point. I think it was back in the 40s or 50s. And they wore all gold home and away. And it said Golden Tornado on the uniforms. And whether like I said, the opposing teams knew they were wearing gold and they always wore dark. Well, when I came here, I've just been learning about the history of Rigby and some of the traditions. And so I had heard, I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that there was two high schools in this area. There was a high school in Manan, and in 1939, 1940, it burned down. And that's when Rigby and Manan combined to create one high school. And it was the Manan Pirates, and at the time it was the Rigby Red Devils. And so, but when they joined, they became the Trojans. And so I just felt what a cool thing we could start. It kind of built on my history of where I'm from. When you go to the playoffs, we become the Red Devils. So it's just an honor to our old mascot and the old tradition of those who came before us. And so we put on the pitchforks, and our alter ego is the Red Devils. And so far, the Red Devils are, I think, 7-0 in the playoffs.
Let's go, dude. I hope that's an educational piece for everybody, because it sure was for me. That is sick. So I was like, dude, those are dope. And I just say, I love your helmets, love the unis, and I love the jackets. If I can cop a jacket one day, I want one, because I will pay for it. I love those jackets. It's more of an old school feel to it. I told Ty, and he said the same thing. He's like, dude, it's just, they have the sickest whole get up. It just, you look the part, and it's awesome. So shout out to you guys over there. And that story is dope. I had no idea. So that was a learning piece for us. But cool. Coach, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for letting us chat with you. Congrats on the state championship, 3 and 4 years. That's amazing. And you'll get another watch. Who knows? Bring it out. Whatever you got to do. But I think it's awesome. I just want to say thanks, man, and thanks for taking the time to share the information with us here on the show. And we just appreciate you. We don't disrespect Rigby. We're not the Boise Underground Sports Network like some of y'all were saying over there in East Idaho. We're not. We don't have a chance to see it all that time. So we have all the respect for you guys. And I just want to say thanks again, man. I appreciate you joining us.
Well, I appreciate it. We'll get you more footage through the years here. I think it's great for high school sports. I mean, think about the amount of coverage that, college and NFL, teams get. And I think this game is about the atmosphere that's created on Friday nights. And you don't get that in a lot of different venues. And so I think what you guys are doing to kind of promote high school sports and build the hype, these days it's social media and all the things that go around it. That's the day and age we live in, and the kids love it. And so that's why we put an emphasis Matt Van Stinkus on Van Visual does all of our media creation and videos, and it gets us hyped. It gets our kids hyped, and the uniforms and everything we do is for a reason, because ultimately we know that I want our kids in the best emotional and mental state at game time as possible. And whatever we can do to get that to that point, we'll do. And so we appreciate what you guys have done for high school sports, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. We appreciate you. Hopefully this isn't the last time we get to talk to you, but let you rest a little bit. And then I guess we'll see in January when you guys start going full force at it again. We'll be looking forward to next season, but I appreciate you, Coach, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.